terrible morning of September 2001.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everyone. I'm Rosalie. I'm a convert to Islam. I'm actually in the UK, not American, but I found this video of Daalya Mujahid. I always pronounce their name wrong, Yasmin and Daalya. Is it Mujahid or Mujahid? But they're amazing sisters, mashallah. And they do so much amazing work for the Ummah. But Daalya actually made a video about being Muslim in America. And I watched it and I related to it so much. And I think all women in the West who are Muslim will relate to this. Actually, I think all Muslim women will relate to this because there is not much out there that talks about our experience. And she's really talking about our experience in this video. This is kind of the state of what it is for the Muslim world at the moment, especially like the Western world against us all the time. For what reason? Allahu Alam. But there's a lot in this video you'll relate to. And there's a lot that I learned from this video that helped me really understand the experience of being a Muslim woman and how it has impacted me. And I've been through that change, right? I've been through the change of being just somebody, normal British girl that walks down the street, to a Muslim girl that walks down the street. And people don't think I'm British when they see me. They think I'm like Syrian or something. So I meet people all the time and they're like, oh, where are you from? Nobody ever says to me, are you British or are you a revert? People always think that I'm like Turkish or Syrian, or you know, there are loads of Muslim countries that have like white-skinned Muslims. So just because I put on a headscarf, I've all of a sudden like changed my ethnicity. Like I'm a completely different ethnicity now, which is crazy. SubhanAllah.
What do you think when you look at me? A woman of faith, an expert, maybe even a sister, or oppressed, brainwashed, a terrorist, or just an airport security line delay? That one's actually true. If some of your perceptions were negative, I don't really blame you. That's just how the media has been portraying people who look like me. One study found that 80% of news coverage about Islam and Muslims is negative. And studies show that Americans say that most don't know a Muslim. I guess people don't talk to their Uber drivers. Well, for those of you who've never met a Muslim, it's great to meet you. Let me tell you who I am. I'm a mom, a coffee lover, double espresso, cream on the side. I'm an introvert. I'm a wannabe fitness fanatic, and I'm a practicing spiritual Muslim. But not like Lady Gaga says, because baby, I wasn't born this way. It was a choice. When I was 17, I decided to come out. No, not as a gay person like some of my friends, but as a Muslim, and decided to start wearing the hijab, my head covering. My feminist friends were aghast. Why are you oppressing yourself? The funny thing was, it was actually at that time a feminist declaration of independence from the pressure I felt as a 17-year-old to conform to a perfect and unattainable standard of beauty. I didn't just passively accept the faith of my parents. I wrestled with the Quran. I read and reflected and questioned and doubted and ultimately believed. My relationship...
That's what it was like for me as a revert as well. Obviously, when you first start reading the Quran as a non-Muslim, you will always be trying to go against it as much as possible. But eventually, like, it just takes over your heart, subhanAllah.
With God, it was not love at first sight. It was a trust and a slow surrender that deepened with every reading of the Quran. Its rhythmic beauty sometimes moves me to tears. I see myself in it. I feel that God knows me. Have you ever felt like someone sees you, completely understands you, and yet loves you anyway? That's how it feels. And so later, I got married, and like all good Egyptians, started my career as an engineer. I later had a child after getting married, and I was living essentially the Egyptian American dream. And then that terrible morning of September 2001. I think a lot of you probably remember exactly where you were that morning. I was sitting in my kitchen, finishing breakfast, and I look up on the screen and see the words breaking news. There was smoke, airplanes flying into buildings, people jumping out of buildings. What was this? An accident? A malfunction? My shock quickly turned to outrage. Who would do this? And I switched the channel and I hear Muslim terrorist, in the name of Islam, Middle Eastern descent, jihad. We should bomb Mecca. Oh my God. Not only had my country been attacked, but in a flash, somebody else's actions had turned me from a citizen to a suspect. That same day, we had to drive across Middle America to move to a new city to start grad school. And I remember sitting in the passenger seat as we drove in silence, crouched as low as I could go in my seat for the first time in my life, afraid for anyone to know I was a Muslim. We moved into our apartment that night in a new town in what felt like a completely different world. And then I was hearing and seeing and reading warnings from national Muslim organizations saying things like, be alert, be aware, stay in well-lit areas, don't congregate. I stayed inside all week. And then it was Friday, that same week, the day that Muslims congregate for worship. And again, the warnings were, don't go that first Friday. It could be a target. And I was watching the news, wall-to-wall coverage. Emotions were so raw, understandably. And I was also hearing about attacks on Muslims, or people who were perceived to be Muslim being pulled out and beaten in the street. Mosques were actually firebombed. And I thought, we should just stay home. And yet, something didn't feel right. Because those people who attacked our country attacked our country. I get it that people were angry at the terrorists. Guess what? So was I. And so to have to explain yourself all the time isn't easy. I don't mind questions. I love questions. It's the accusations that are tough. Today we hear people actually saying things like, there's a problem in this country and it's called Muslims. When are we going to get rid of them?
SubhanAllah. I just want to say that I was not Muslim during 9/11, and also I was only 4 years old, so I don't remember any of it. So maybe you guys can let me know in the comments, like if you experienced that, like what happened for you guys, because I'd love to hear. And also, the Americans, after going through 9/11, the fact that they don't understand about the suffering in Gaza, considering like what happened in America, what happened in New York, and then what happens in Gaza, like every single day, you would think they would be able to put the two and two together and go, it's not very nice being bombed, having entire buildings and people stuck under buildings and everything that goes with being bombed, and how horrific it was for Americans and how we're still talking about it today. Yet it's happening in other countries and America's funding it. And they're like, who cares? It's another country. It's only like, we're the only ones that matter. It was a bit weird to me. But anyway, 9/11 was tragic. What's happening in Gaza is also tragic.
So some people want to ban Muslims and close down mosques. They talk about my community kind of like we're a tumor in the body of America. And the only question is, are we malignant or benign? You know, a malignant tumor you extract altogether, and a benign tumor you just keep under surveillance. The choices don't make sense because it's the wrong question. Muslims, like all other Americans, aren't a tumor in the body of America. We're a vital organ. Thank you. Muslims are inventors and teachers, first responders and Olympic athletes. Now, is closing down mosques going to make America safer? It might free up some parking spots. but it will not end terrorism. Going to a mosque regularly is actually linked to having more tolerant views of people of other faiths and greater civic engagement. And as one police chief in the Washington, D.C. area recently told me, people don't actually get radicalized at mosques. They get radicalized in their basement or bedroom in front of a computer. And what you find about the radicalization process is it starts online, but the first thing that happens is the person gets cut off from their community, from even their family, so that the extremist group can brainwash them into believing that they, the terrorists, are the true Muslims, and everyone else who abhors their behavior and ideology are sellouts or apostates. So if we want to prevent radicalization, we have to keep people going to the mosque. Now, some will still argue Islam is a violent religion. After all, a group like ISIS bases its brutality on the Quran. Now, as a Muslim, as a mother, as a human being, I think we need to do everything we can to stop a group like ISIS. But we would be giving into their narrative if we cast them as representatives of a faith of 1.6 billion people. Thank you. ISIS has as much to do with Islam as the Ku Klux Klan has to do with Christianity. Both groups claim to base their ideology on their holy book. But when you look at them, they're not motivated by what they read in their holy book. It's their brutality that makes them read these things into the scripture. Recently, a prominent imam told me a story that really took me aback. He said that a girl came to him because she was thinking of going to join ISIS. And I was really surprised and asked him, had she been in contact with a radical religious leader? And he said the problem was quite the opposite, that every cleric that she had talked to had shut her down and said that her rage, her sense of injustice in the world, was just going to get her in trouble. And so with nowhere to channel and make sense of this anger, she was a prime target to be exploited by extremists promising her a solution. What this imam did was to connect her back to God and to her community. He didn't shame her for her rage. Instead, he gave her constructive ways to make real change in the world. What she learned at that mosque prevented her from going to join ISIS. Now, I've told you a little bit about how Islamophobia affects me and my family, but how does it impact ordinary Americans? How does it impact everyone else? How does consuming fear 24 hours a day affect the health of our democracy, the health of our free thought? Well, one study, actually several studies in neuroscience, show that when we're afraid, at least three things happen. We become more accepting of authoritarianism, conformity, and prejudice. One study showed that when subjects were exposed to news stories that were negative about Muslims, they became more accepting of military attacks on Muslim countries and policies that curtail the rights of American Muslims. Now, this isn't just academic. When you look at when anti-Muslim sentiment spiked between 2001 and 2013, it happened 3 times, but it wasn't around terrorist attacks. It was in the run-up to the Iraq War and during 2 election cycles. So Islamophobia isn't just the natural response to Muslim terrorism as I would have expected. It can actually be a tool of public manipulation, eroding the very foundation of a free society, which is rational and well-informed citizens. Muslims are like canaries in the coal mine. We might be the first to feel it, but the toxic air of fear is harming us all. And assigning collective guilt isn't just about having to explain yourself all the time. Dia and his wife, Yusr, were a young married couple living in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, where they both went to school. Dia was an athlete, and he was in dental school, talented, promising. And his sister would tell me that he was the sweetest, most generous human being she knew. She was visiting him there, and he showed her his resume, and she was amazed. She said, "When did my baby brother become such an accomplished young man?" Just a few weeks after Suzanne's visit to her brother and his new wife, their neighbor, Craig Stephen Hicks, murdered them, as well as Yostra's sister Roseanne, who was visiting for the afternoon, in their apartment, execution style, after posting anti-Muslim statements on his Facebook page. He shot Dia 8 times. So bigotry isn't just immoral, it can even be lethal. So back to my story. What happened after 9/11? Did we go to the mosque, or did we play it safe and stay home? Well, we talked it over, and it might seem like a small decision, but to us it was about what kind of America we wanted to leave for our kids. One that would control us by fear, or one where we were practicing our religion freely. So we decided to go to the mosque, and we put my son in his car seat, buckled him in, and we drove silently and tensely to the mosque. And I took him out, I took off my shoes, I walked into the prayer hall. And what I saw made me stop. The place was completely full. And then the imam made an announcement thanking and welcoming our guests, because half the congregation were Christians, Jews, Buddhists, atheists, people of faith and no faith, who had come not to attack us, but to stand in solidarity with us.
Making me emotional.
I just break down at this time. These people were there because they chose courage and compassion over panic and prejudice. What will you choose? What will you choose at this time of fear and bigotry? Will you play it safe, or will you join those who say, we are better than that? Thank you.
MashaAllah, that's amazing, amazing, amazing speech. MashaAllah, this sister is honestly, she's absolutely incredible, such a blessing to our ummah. SubhanAllah, that ending, oh my God, made me cry, because you know, she was talking about how the media is always putting fear inside of us, and how they use it to manipulate us and to win campaigns and whatever. I feel like that's kind of happened to us as well, because all the stories we've heard since 9/11 have been negative, because a lot of negative things have happened, but also because that has been portrayed a lot. I've never heard that story. I've never heard the story of all the brave, courageous people, loving people that showed up at the mosque to show their support. That took a lot of courage in that time when the norm was to hate Muslims. And those stories we don't hear either. That's why I do so much on my channel to try and put good messages out there. I try and every time there's like good things that happen, I really try and push that message out there. I very rarely post the negative things that happen, very rarely, only if I really feel like I have to. But you'll see in my channel is a lot of positive. I'm always posting the positive stuff, because people don't really talk about it, because it's not that interesting, it's not clickbaity, but it changes our hearts in a better way. Hearing the positive stories changes our hearts in a positive way. It makes us more loving and accepting and understanding, and just seeing the world for a better place, not for a bad place. It really changes your outlook. The glasses, the lenses that you have on when you view the world, they make reality completely different from you to your brother to your sister. People who wear different glasses for the way they see the world, they have completely different realities. They see the world in a completely different way. And I love seeing the world in this way, as the loving way. And I think I'm always trying to convince myself, especially during these ridiculous times of what's happening in Palestine, Spain, Gaza, and everything, to the Palestinians, I'm always convincing myself to not let this stuff taint my view of the world, and to see people in a good way. And I take that out in the street with me, and I connect with non-Muslims in that way, and I see a difference. I can see a difference because some days I'm not like that because maybe something happened in Gaza, or I see like a news story of somebody attacking somebody like a Muslim or somebody supporting Gaza, and it taints my vision. And I go out into the world and I see all my non-Muslim neighbors, or just like people that I know, in a different way, and people in the street in a different way, and I have to stop myself and say no. And then I start seeing the same people in the same way. Like, for an example, I met a lady the other day who had a dog. She kept staring at me. Well, in my head, she kept staring at me in a negative way, like she was looking down on me, like she hated Muslims. And I thought, I'm just going to be brave and say hi to her. And I went up to her with Khadija and I said, "Oh, your dog's really cute." And she just lit up and went into a conversation with me. She was a completely different person to what I thought she was. I don't know whether my brain was making it up, saying that, oh, she's looking at you, she hates Muslims, or maybe she was doing it. I don't know. Allahu alam. I challenge you guys to do the same, to sort of like, if you see this kind of thing happening, reason with yourself and say, are they really like judging me, or am I putting that onto them? Am I expecting them to do that because of my image of what I think non-Muslims think of Muslims? And to just be nice to them and say, like, give them a compliment, like, oh, your dog's really cute, or good morning, how are you, or whatever it is, just to like break those barriers. SubhanAllah. But yes, there is a lot of anti-Muslim stuff out there, obviously, and that fear makes us more of a target. It makes us easier to manipulate. Coming into this community, into the Muslim community, has just taught me so much about the world that I didn't realize as a white person living in UK, about things that happen to minorities, experiences that minorities have. Because now I wear hijab, people don't see me as a white person anymore. People see me as ethnically diverse, maybe even a refugee in UK. And that's okay, alhamdulillah, like that's completely okay. I like that. I mean, I would rather be put in the box with you guys, with the Muslims, with maybe the refugees or the immigrants or whatever it is in the UK, than I would be put in the box of the other side, which is, I'm not going to say anything negative, but let's just say, without saying anything negative, I just want to say that I love you guys, and I think you guys are the most generous, kind people that I aspire to be like, and are role models for me. Not those other people like Donald Trump or people like that, whatever. The Andrew Tates, the Donald Trumps, the whatever they are. Thank you guys for watching. Assalamu alaikum.